When somebody says Dragon Ball, what comes to mind? Is it something like this? Maybe this? And, you wouldn't be alone in that. I think most people assume the Z at the end when the series comes up. For me, however, Dragon Ball will always be...
Yep, back before the term Saiyajin was ever even uttered and Piccolo was still a demon, the show was about a little monkey boy who was roped into searching for the titular Dragon Balls and ends up taking on the whole damn world. It includes some of the most satisfying moments I've ever experienced in the genre, and it's just a lot of fun. Now, I won't gush too hard over the series
anymore,
but if you've never experienced it, do yourself a favor and check it out. It is still, in my opinion, one of the greatest, if not the best adventure anime ever created. Plus, it can give longtime Dragon Ball Z fans some added perspective on the origins of the characters that they know and love. There have been a few Dragon Ball games released, primarily back in the days of the original Famicom.
The results were... mixed.
But shortly after, it became all about Dragon Ball Z. Even nowadays, when new DBZ games are being released at a semi-regular pace, Dragon Ball seems to get the short end of the stick. Fortunately, around 2008, there seemed to be a resurgence in interest in games based on classic Dragon Ball. It began with Dragon Ball DS, released in America as Dragon Ball Origins. Then a year later, it was announced that the first full console Dragon Ball game since 1989 would be released for the Nintendo Wii. Released on July 23, 2009 in Japan as Dragon Ball Tenkaichi Daiboken, and later in October 20th of the same year in America with the subtitle Revenge of King Piccolo, this game was developed by Mediavision, who may best be known for the Wild Arms series.
Those Wild West themed RPGs? Right? Damn kids.
The game is a hybrid old-school beat-em-up and platformer.
Just the idea that it wasn't a fighting game and it was from such an underrepresented genre, I was instantly on board, like full Boner Town.
The American release of this game would lead you to believe that it takes place entirely during the Piccolo Daimao story arc, but this is a bit deceptive. While Piccolo certainly is represented, the majority of the game takes place during Goku's war with the Red Ribbon Army, with the last few chapters being devoted to the second Tenkaichi Budokai and finally the Green Demon King himself.
And I can't think of a better time span in which this game could be set. They hit most of the major story sequences, with a few liberties taken here and there, some to pad the gameplay, and others that seem a bit more arbitrary. But I'll come back to that.
The first thing you'll notice when booting up this game is that it is Dragon Ball all over. The presentation is pure fan service. Not that kind of fan service. For a Wii game, it looks awesome. The opening is excellent, and the new song Power of Dreamer fits the tone of the series really well. Each menu contains a character from the series who narrates the various options. And just look at that smug look Kuririn has. Dude, you've been relegated to the options screen. Once we've chosen our language and control settings, that's it for you. The main menu options include Adventure, which is this game's story mode, World Tournament, where you get to fight against another player or the computer in a one-on-one arena match. There's the store where,
with the money,
you can buy extra content like cutscenes and character models, and even items that power up Son Goku in story mode.
Hey.
We have the previously mentioned options menu. Yeah, you're still not fooling anyone, buddy. And finally, there's the gallery where you can view your unlocked and purchased content. The story here is told primarily through these static cutscenes that feature text and voiceovers with motionless images of the participating characters. Peppered throughout, however, are these in-engine sequences that fairly accurately retell key moments from the anime. Each chapter of the game represents a different portion of the story. There are 9 in total and can include 1 to 5 stages each. The majority of these stages have a point A to point B structure, with a boss enemy at the end. On completion of each stage, you'll get a letter ranking from C to S based on completion time, the amount of health remaining, etc. There's also a bonus Zenny payout, which is the Dragon Ball Universe's currency, based on your performance. While the levels are mostly taken from locations within the anime, some are expanded or outright made up in order to pad the gameplay. For example, I seriously don't remember Muscle Tower being so damn big or having smashy-doos everywhere, and Goku never visited an ancient temple when he was training with Karin. I guess they didn't want you to have to spend 20 minutes chasing a cat around in order to grab a bottle of water. And while it doesn't really take away from anything, for longtime fans who are familiar with the story, it'll make you raise an eyebrow. Like any old school beat 'em up, the stages are broken up with enemy encounters that must be cleared before you're allowed to scroll the screen and proceed. The difference here is that many of the levels are explorable, and there's platforming thrown into the mix. There are ledges that you must jump to, hazards to be avoided, and little homing bots that are littered around the stage. These can help you proceed along your standard path, or they can allow you to reach new areas or hidden items. You'll know when you can home in on these little guys due to the little blue reticle that appears for a brief moment when you're within a certain distance. This works better in theory due to the execution. You see, you have one chance to hit the homing button when the prompt appears, and if you miss that chance, you have a full 2 seconds before you're allowed to try again. Most chapters have a total of 8 collectible items to be located in treasure chests hidden around each level. These include such items as Muten Roshi's turtle shell, or the Nyoibo. Not to mention such legendary series relics like the carrot, or the snowman.
I mean, clearly you can't have a Dragon Ball game without the, electric rice cooker. Damn right.
And this brings me to the combat. The primary attack is performed by hitting the Y button. This initiates your basic combos that begin with punches and end with you swinging the Nyoibo. This can also be extended by hitting the Y button and down in the middle of a combo in order to launch an enemy into the air, where you can home in on them for more punches before smashing them into the ground. Each successful hit builds a bit of your ki meter. The meter has a total of 3 bars to fill, and each full bar allows for 1 use of the Kamehameha. You're also able to block by holding the right trigger. Moving the stick in any direction while blocking causes you to do this little dodge roll, which is pretty useful, especially in later fights. Enemies will occasionally drop item pickups. These can include bags of Zeni, meat that restores Goku's health, gourds that fill your ki meter a bit, or senzu that do both. These items can also be found in crates and other breakables around the stage. Occasionally, enemies will fire projectile weapons like rockets, or throw weapons like bombs. Rockets can be homed in on for deflection back at the target, and bombs to be grabbed for your own use. The boss encounters are a bit different. They take place in closed arenas and for the most part are one-on-one. The majority of these follow set patterns with a pretty good variety of attack styles between each boss. Some of them can also have shields that need to be broken down before you can deal any damage. Other bosses forego the shield but have this mechanic where you have to swiftly dodge certain attacks. You can then counterattack in order to stun them. This allows you to chip away at their health until they snap out of it. And all bosses have this odd little shout move that must be countered if you don't want to sustain serious damage. This is indicated by the homing reticle appearing on Goku. Once that happens, you have mere moments to hit the homing button to negate the attack, or this happens.
This brings me to World Tournament mode, and honestly, there's not a lot to say.
You can choose to fight in several different locations like the Tenkaichi Budokai Arena, Uranai Baba's Palace, etc. There are a few characters who are playable from the start. The rest are unlocked by beating the game, getting high ranks in each level, or finding the various hidden items. Now, this is the closest that this game ever really gets to being a fighting game, although it's pretty awkward and shallow seeing as how the design is more suited to it being a beat 'em up. In this mode, they've added this instant attack move that can be done anytime when you're within a certain distance of your opponent. You just need to be facing them and hit the homing button. And as far as I can tell, it is almost completely unblockable. It seems to get through all shields, and the roll move is useless. 2-player matches just end up turning into who can hit the homing button quicker.
And that's essentially how it plays. If it sounds like fun, that's because it is. However,
there are a few flaws that I cannot overlook. First is the invincibility period that every enemy in the game has. For example, when you're fighting, you can perform your combo, at the end of which many of the enemies will be knocked down. While they're in this post-combo state, they are completely invulnerable to any attack. This includes ki blasts. And while this may not sound like much of a problem, I can assure you that it becomes very annoying very quickly, especially in boss battles where you're using everything that you have in order to defeat your foe. Sometimes you'll perform a particularly skillful combo which then fills a bar on your ki meter. You hit the Kamehameha button in order to cut down more of their health, only to have it do nothing and completely waste that bar. There are even scripted attacks that the bosses do that put them into this invulnerable state. Especially in the later levels and boss battles, this can be supremely maddening. Second, the level design and layout can start to blend together a bit after a while. Some stages feel extra long as a result, and when you face what seems to be the same group of red ribbon goons for the umpteenth time, the Kamehameha starts to become the dedicated just fuck off already button. Remember earlier how I said that some of these changes seemed fairly arbitrary? Well, for example, during the first chapter, they get to the sequence where Goku encounters Colonel Silver. Instead of letting us fight him, they throw a bear bandit at us who comes all the way back from episode 3. In the anime, Goku doesn't really fight Silver so much as bitch slap him with his tail, but I still would have preferred to fight a red ribbon officer to this jerk-off. Now, this next bit isn't really a problem with the game, but I still couldn't get it out of my mind while playing. Look how many strikes it takes me, Son Goku, to take down a red ribbon army henchman. Now, during the same period of time, might I remind you... Yeah! And he's a goddamn colonel.
Look, I know I'm a geek, but I can't turn it off. And then there's this one boss fight that makes me want to drive rusty nails into my skull.
When you first encounter Piccolo, it progresses like most other fights. However, after you deplete a certain amount of his health, he'll start to do this attack where he flips you the bird and causes little explosions to follow you around the arena. This is annoying for two reasons. One, he's invincible once he starts doing it, so heaven forbid you decide to hit him with a Kamehameha at the exact wrong moment. And two, it's pointless once you realize that to avoid the attack, you simply need to keep walking. If it took some skill to avoid, that might actually make it somewhat engaging, but it just ends up drawing out the fight longer than it should. Oh, and I am far from done with this asshole. After taking down even more of his health, the real fun begins. He'll start to do this looky-loo attack when you face him. Your eyes meet his and he starts to produce what really look like stink clouds. And much like the last attack, this is pathetically easy to avoid. You simply wiggle the left analog stick in order to completely negate the effects. I still don't know what it actually does because he was never able to pull the damn thing off. Oh, but that won't stop the fucker from trying. If you so much as face him, he'll start the whole thing over from the beginning. And every time he makes those bedroom eyes at you and you're stuck waiting for another 20 unskippable goddamn seconds. This fight can suck it tender. The second time you face him, which serves as the final boss in the game, is much more difficult, but due to the lack of complete bullshit, it is way more enjoyable. It's even sufficiently climactic, as any good end boss should be. Lastly, and worst of all, while this game is technically two-player, this refers to World Tournament Mode only. One of the best aspects of any beat-em-up is being able to play it with your friends, and in this game, Adventure Mode can only be played with one player, and only as Son Goku. All unlockable characters can only be used in tournament. And for me, that makes unlocking characters damn near pointless. Apparently, you can even unlock Arare from Dr. Slump as a playable character. But in order to do that, you have to get S ranks in every stage, and it's just not worth it. And you know, it's a damn shame because I would have loved to play through story mode beating the crap out of people as an adorable little android girl.
So, was this game any good?
Well, yeah, it was. The combat, while flawed, was a lot of fun. The platforming and exploration are a really nice addition to the formula, and you feel like the people who made it have a real fondness for the show. And you know, I went into this review only having played through the first chapter when I originally bought the game, so I expected this to be a love fest. And please, don't misconstrue any part of this review and think that I did not enjoy myself. I really like this game. It's not a masterpiece, but it really doesn't need to be. I'm even tempted to play it through again, when I find the time. But with a few of these problems either ironed out or fixed completely, this game could have been that much better. So to quote my mother, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Next time, I'm going to do something a bit different. For the month of October leading up to Halloween, I'm going to be talking about games based on a particular series of films. Now, I'm not going to spill the beans right here, but let's just say I hope you think the videos are... groovy. See you then. How many times am I going to say Boner Town tonight?
Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. It took a little bit longer than I expected, but it came more quickly than the last one. Please click the subscribe button, like this video, share it with everyone you know. I'm linking some of the previous videos here in the center, just click the annotations, and thanks again.
どんな願いも